Hello designers, this is Mr. Granlund here, and I'm going to take you through how to do a 3D logo design. The first step that we're going to do is we're going to create a new project. So I'm going to go to File, New, and I'm not going to use these settings. We're going to call this Logo, and we're going to make this 2000 pixels by 2000 pixels. So we have a square composition. Resolution can stay at 72. The color mode RGB, background should be white. And make sure this is set to pixels and not inches, otherwise you're going to run into a lot of problems. And click Create. So the first thing I'm going to do is create my background. I'm going to create two layers for the background. I'm going to do it the same way. So I'm going to click on Solid Color. I'm going to choose two colors. Now here's the thing about color. There's a lot of cool combinations of colors, and if I go to this web page, it's one of my favorites to use. It's called Adobe Color, and I just color.adobe.com, and it gives me different kinds of color schemes. Analogous, monochromatic, triad. I did a split complement, and you can drag these colors around and it shows you interesting combinations. You can click on Explore and find interesting color trends that people are using in their pictures like this. Now if I want to use any of these colors, I can copy the color here and then go into Photoshop and paste it, and it'll give me that exact color. And I'm going to do this twice. So I'm going to make another solid color, and I'm going to switch over to Adobe Color, and I'm going to use this color, and I'm going to paste that into there, and I'm going to blend between these two. So I'm going to go to the gradient tool, Now that I have the gradient tool, I'm going to go up to here and I'm going to make sure that this has a black to white gradient. So I can click on these different gradients and I want the one that's black to white. I'm going to click on the layer mask for either of these two solid colors, and I'm going to click and drag from top to bottom. And as you can see, it's a little subtle, but you can see the gradient difference between the background and foreground. And if I do Control-I on the keyboard, I get a little bit different effect. So that's how I create my background. Next, you're going to need to have three different elements in your project. You're going to need to have an organic shape, a geometric shape, and a text element in your project. So let's go ahead and start with the text element. That's going to be the easiest. I'm going to click on the text tool, click on my composition, and type in whatever the name of my company that I want to make is, or I'll just put in my last name. Couple of suggestions. I would recommend using a sans serif font, but feel free to go in there and try a number of different fonts. Make sure your text is nice and big. It can be across multiple lines, but you're going to want some sort of text element that's about this size. And my text right there is 310 pixels large. So somewhere in that neighborhood is going to be good. The second element that you're going to need is a geometric shape. Now, a geometric shape is any sort of shape that's created mathematically. So it could be like an octagon, like you can use the polygon tool, and you can change the number of sides. So you could have like a 10-sided object or shape, and then drag that in there. And you could have that shape element as part of your project. For me, I'm going to go with a circle shape. And I'm holding Shift on the keyboard to make sure that it stays a perfect circle. Now my border, I'm going to create a very thick border. So I'm going to change this stroke width to a higher number. And I'm going to keep increasing it until I get something that I'm satisfied with. 50 pixels looks good. And I'm also going to change the color. You don't want to go with black. Because we're going to make these 3D, that black color is not going to work well once we get into the 3D view of this and making it into 3D. You're not going to see the shadows and see that cool 3D effect. I would recommend, I'm going to do mine white, but basically any color other than black will work. Once you've picked out your geometric shape, you can go ahead and go to Layer, Rasterize, click on Shape, and then modify it however you want. For me, I just want to have more of a semicircle, so I'm going to cut off half of my shape by selecting it and deleting it. And I'm going to move it up just a little bit. The next element that you have to have in your project is some sort of organic shape. An organic shape is a shape that comes from life. It's not like a rectangle or a polygon or something mathematical like that. It might be the shape of an animal or a food or something like that. Like apple is an organic shape. I'm going to choose the shape of a rooster. So when I was born, this was the Chinese zodiac sign that was for that year of being born. And so I'm going to include this into my project. And I'm going to copy and paste the picture. We're going to do something a little bit new. And we're going to use the pen tool to create our own custom shape. Now this is going to be a little bit tricky, but I know you can do it and you're going to do a great job. I'm going to get this out of the way. The pen tool is on the left toolbar. It's right above the text tool. And this creates a vector shape that's customized. Now you can do this a number of different ways. In this one, I just did the head and kind of created some interesting spaces. This time around, I'm going to just go around the whole shape. And you might have to do this a couple of times to get some sort of result that you like. Now the way the pen tool works is you click or hold and click and drop little points. And you can see these little handlebars here. And those influence the force or the direction of your line here. And your line is the thing that goes between the points. So I dragged out a really big handle there. The nice thing about this tool is it gives you really smooth curves. And you don't have to do exact. I want to just get a nice outline. I'm clicking and dragging. You can also try some other kinds of clicking. You can hold the Alt button and click. And what this does is it only pulls out one handle. You can also hold Control click and that kind of ends it. And if you accidentally click off of it, make sure you reattach your line by clicking at the end of your line to restart it. Alright, now that my shape is done, I'm going to click on the paths and select my work path. I also need a new layer so that I can fill this layer with a color. So I'm going to click either the new layer button or go to layer and new layer. And I'm going to click on paths and I'm going to fill my path with whatever color. I can also click on this drop down menu and go to fill path and use color. I'm going to make a red rooster since that kind of makes sense to me. So now I have my different shapes. I have my text element, I have my organic shape element, and I have my geometric shape element. Now I'm going to turn them to be 3D. Just get these together here. And I'm going to click off of the work path. So I'm going to right click on these layers. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom and do new 3D extrusion from selected layer. And I'm going to click yes on there. I'm going to go back to the layers menu, click on the next layer, right click, go all the way down, 3D extrusion from selected layer, and then again one more time on my text layer, right click, new 3D extrusion from selected layer. Now I want to make sure that all of these layers work together, because if I rotate this, if I rotate just this layer, none of the other layers go with it. And I want to make sure that they all move together. So I'm going to go back to my layers menu. I'm going to hold shift, click on the top one, and click on my third one. And I'm going to go up to 3D and merge 3D layers. That way, when I move them, they all move together. Now under the 3D menu, I can click on each layer and change the extrusion depth of each layer. And I can still move each layer independently if I want to. And then I can also go to my current view and just change my view a little bit to what I would like it to finally look like when I'm done. Again, I'm going to change my extrusion depths on some of these layers, and that looks good. I'm going to keep going back between my 3D menu and my layers palette, changing things that I want to change. When I am set and ready to go, I'm going to create a selection just around the area of my logo, and I'm going to export that layer. So I'm going to go to 3D layer export. Once that has finished, it's going to take about 15 minutes, and once that is